Hello, everybody. This is Jerry Mateo with Music Marketing TV. Welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Relab's Color Drive. This is their newest plugin, and this is a really cool little change up. They actually took this center section or the saturation section of their 176 compressor and made a separate plugin of it. It's really cool. It's very CPU efficient, and it sounds amazing. So let's just jump in and take a look. All right, so I have an instance here. This is the one on my rhythm guitar. And let's just go to the B section so we don't mess it up. And let's go over the controls. This is very simple, very easy. You have a very easy layout here. First of all, everything is touch compatible. I'm going to touch 3 different parameters right now and move them with my fingers. And let's do a 4th and let's add a 5th. Everything is touch compatible, which is fantastic. The second thing, the controls, really simple. In the center, you have a big drive knob. This is going to be how much tube style saturation you will get. This is simulating a really nice tube. And this is going to be your drive. How much distortion do I want? Directly to the bottom left of this is going to be your calibration. And this calibration knob is going to add some even order harmonics. So if you need a little bit more fizz or grit, you just crank this up and it gives you a little bit more subtle saturation. You can also use this to slightly clean up the audio as it gets distorted and you want to just back off a tiny bit. We're going up to the top now, just because I really wanted to go over the saturation, but we have our input and our output knobs. Now, this is going to be plus and minus 12 dBs of gain, and this will control how much input and how much output you have. Now, keep in mind that your output gain is going to be completely clean. So this is going to be an automatable gain because you also have auto gain. You turn this on, you play audio through it after you set your settings up, and it will actually give you a different number, completely separate from your output gain. This will compensate for it, and then you can use this output gain to do automation. I have Studio One version 7, just bought it, by the way, very good DAW, and it's very easy to find whatever you're automating here, but let's say you want to have a good nominal unity gain, you do this, and then you tweak from here. The input gain is very simple, plus and minus 12 dB. But this is also going to allow you to drive the input of the plugin even harder. This will hit the unit harder and give you more distortion and saturation. This is great if you want to distort snare drums or you want to get a drum crush bus going on and simulate some like 1176 style distortion. This is a great way of just driving this all the way up, driving this all the way up, driving this all the way up, and then compensating with your auto gain and your output gain. Really cool. Really, really flexible. Invert polarity is a little bit unique. This is actually really doing nothing if you have a symmetric waveform. Kind of like this guitar right here. It's pretty symmetric through and through. There's some asymmetric points, but when you have a symmetric waveform, it won't really do much. But let's say you have something that's not symmetric. It's an asymmetric waveform where it has a peak going up and it kind of stays looking like a weird peak and then it turns into a symmetric waveform. It's just asymmetric, right? There's nothing crazy about it. But if you invert the polarity, this will actually cause that section that was hitting or wasn't hitting the distortion to hit. So it will flip the polarity of that waveform to hit the distortion. The plugin does automatically compensate and reflip it on the output so you're not out of phase. But it's a great way if you're doing something like with toms or a asymmetric recording. Lots of times horns, for some reason, are very asymmetric. You can actually get different types of distortion. This will also incorporate into the calibration knob. This does also have unique characteristics that happen with this. So this is just a great way of just, hey, if I have something that's asymmetric and I want to distort a little bit differently, try this out. Your output coupling is pretty simple. To the left is going to be your resistor. This is going to be flat frequency response, very, very neutral, and it's going to be the same thing for the distortion and the output. No real coloration. It's just a resistor. To the left, on the other hand, is going to be a transformer. This is going to have a looser transient feel because transformers are a little bit less tight. And it's also going to have a little bit more of a vintage character. So a little bit of an EQ and a little bit of a roll off on the top end. So if you want to have like a thicker sound, have a transformer. If you want to have a very neutral sound, have a resistor. Mix knob is very simple. Dry to the left, wet to the right. Dry is the undistorted or non-distorted signal. and the wet is all your distortion, all the juiciness. Crossover, really important, really cool. This is not a detection circuit. This is actually a filter cutting off where the distortion starts and ends. If you have it at 40, it's at 40 hertz, right? But if you have it off, this is not doing anything. This is distorting the entire frequency spectrum. You turn it on and you set it, and anything under the knobs settings, so at 150, anything under 150 in this case, will not be distorted. This is really good for bass drum if you're mixing rock and metal, kick drum if you're mixing anything, and pretty much like toms, anything that has a lot of low frequencies that you want to have the low end bloom. If you want to have everything crunched and distorted and kind of fizz and fart out, just turn it off. You can distort all your low end all you want. If you turn it on, it will filter that out and allow those frequencies to come out without being distorted. The filter section is really cool. This is not an EQ. This is a tilt EQ and a high frequency shelf that is going to drive the bias of the compression or the distortion. Compression is just really aggressive distortion, super fast distortion, actually. So let's say I have this at 1.2K. I have this at a tilt and I boost. This is going to boost the signal going into the distortion using that 10 dB tilt shelf. And then on the output, it brings it back down so you don't hear a frequency change. You hear the distortion characteristics change. You also hear it on the high frequency shelf. It's a little bit smoother with that, a little bit less aggressive, but you definitely hear it. You can turn this into like a fuzz distortion pedal or a very glassy crispiness. It's really cool. You get a lot of characteristics and a lot of functionality with just 2 knobs and a button. That's about it for the overview. We also have the oversampling for real time and offline. We have a crossover for the crossover filter. This is going to be subtractive, which is going to be very, very neutral, but it's going to be a wider EQ filter. So you will get more of the low frequencies that get distorted, but you have less of a phase change. If you have a Linkwitz Riley, this is a very popular filter for the live sound world. I actually use it on my Behringer Wing and the DM3 and the DM7. It's a very popular crossover for anything that is very, very accurate. It needs to be tight and accurate. It will have a little bit of a phase change at the very point of the crossover, but so do all filters. So this is just accurate, tight, without adding any artifacts, just a little phase shift, which will happen no matter what. Have your stereo mode, left, right, mid, side. Pretty simple, pretty easy. Let's go back to A setting and let's just listen to this thing in action. So I have the session here. I'm now using Studio One version 7, which is awesome. I really like this. And we're able to highlight all instances of Color Drive, bypass and unbypass, right? Turn them on and off. We're going to play this track through. Let's go to the very beginning. We're going to listen to everything with Relab off and then turn it on after the second go. So here we go. I'll put on my headphones and let's take a listen. Sounds okay. Let's turn it on. That is beyond a night and day difference. That is a complete world shift apart. That is completely different, correct? Well, what are we doing? This is a punk track. This was provided to us by musicomplit. It's a company that provided my channel and my company the rights to use all of their sessions and stuff, as long as I did videos using their content, shouting them out. And I really thought this was going to be a great session for this. So we'll start off with the intro guitar. This is actually a mono guitar that I've made stereo using the Sonsig Rev A as a nice reverb. I'm using amp simulation and then an EQ to kind of shape it. But check out Relab's Color Drive. Now, this does not have aggressive settings. This is just 80% drive, a little bit of calibration, using the transformer output and then the crossover to prevent it from distorting the low end. And the filter is really where we're getting a lot of that magic. So let's bypass this and bring it in, and we'll take a listen. It's acting as a distortion pedal, an overdrive pedal, but not a normal one. This is like a super high-end studio quality overdrive pedal. So let me show you what this filter does. The gain is set to the high frequency shelf, and this is the emphasis of the distortion. Check this out. Let's change it to tilt shelf. So hopefully you're hearing, depending on where in the frequency spectrum and what type of filter that I'm using, you get completely different distortion. This is actually what a lot of distortion plugins are doing. By the way, you have an input and output meter right here. You just click input, output, just so you know. But yeah, this is really controlling the overall tonality of the distortion. And as you hear, it's very aggressive EQing, but you don't hear it as EQing because it's EQing the distortion detector, the emphasis, what goes into distortion, and then it cleans itself or fixes itself on the output of that distortion. Really cool. It adds a ton of character and a ton of body to this. Next, we have the left and right guitars. So this has the exact same settings on both of them. It's the exact same signal flow. So we're going to solo this up, and we are going to go to right where it starts. We'll have them bypass, and then we'll bring them back in. Now for this, I'm using the tilt shelf EQ. This is really being used to sound like a distortion pedal, to sound like a fuzz pedal to be exact. I want grittiness because this is a punk track. So I want it to have that fizziness. I want it to have that really aggressive tone. And I think it did a great job. It sounds better than any distortion pedal that I currently own. Next, we have the bass, and this is where the crossover filter is really going to be noticeable. I have it on set to 150. If I bypass it, I want you to listen to this crazy distortion we get on the low frequencies. Now I'm slamming this thing, right? Let's turn on the crossover at 150 hertz. Now, this is a very common trick when you are mixing rock, metal, and punk. You want to distort the mids, extremely distort the highs, and do some EQing there. The low end, you just compress, and you let it just bloom out a little bit. That's exactly what I'm doing here. I could have the crossover set a little bit higher. I do like the Linkwitz-Riley crossover. It's very, very tight, but I do want it to have some body distorted. So I'm leaving it at 150-ish. And this is doing a great job of cleaning up my low end while distorting and adding a lot of grit to the rest of the signal. This is adding a lot of body to it. And if we bypass it on and off in the track, you can really hear how it kind of just takes away from the character when you have it off. You can actually feel the bass a lot more when you have it on. When you have it off, it's still there, but it just sounds kind of dull and dead. It's bass. It's just so dynamic that it flutters in and out. Whereas when it's on, it's very compressed, very distorted, but still dynamic enough because you're not distorting all of the low end. And next we have the drums. Now the drums is pretty interesting. I have this on the kick, the snare, and all the toms. The kick is pretty simple. Look at this. Driving this thing, just diming this like crazy. I have the output coupling to resistor because I liked it neutral. And I have the crossover at about, what is it, 100 something? Let's do 150. Let's listen to it on and off. So this is off. Again, distorting that low end. Let's turn on that crossover. Just adding some impact. It sounds more like a punch, like a pop, pop, instead of like a tick, tick. It just adds body to it. I love it. It adds a lot of character. The snare is a lot more aggressive. This guy is distorting. Let's bypass it. Again, I'm using the emphasis filter with the tilt EQ. I'm not using the crossover whatsoever. This is just there because I think I was messing with it earlier, but that sounds really good, especially with the reverb. Just adds more impact and aggression. All of the toms have the exact same settings. So if we just go to a part that has a lot of tommy toms, I believe it should be right around here. You really hear it, right? We'll bypass them all. It just adds some impact and some girth to it. I believe for the toms, we are using the crossover at about 100-ish hertz on all of them. These are the settings for all the toms. Very standard settings. I'm not even using the emphasis filter. I think it sounded great as it was. And that's it. That's everything I have used this plugin on. And if we listen to this track with and without, it is such a night and day difference. It's incredible. Let's do it one more time with it off, and then we'll go through the whole track with it on. It just sounds like dead in the water. With it on. And there you have it. That has been Relab's Color Drive. I think this is an awesome plugin. I actually think it's a great plugin if you need something to do subtle, silky saturation, especially tube style saturation. I use this as a distortion pedal. I'm a guitar player, or at least I grew up as a guitar player. I love distortion pedals. I have like, my cheapest distortion pedal is like $200. My most expensive one is like $500, $600. And I rent one that's like $4,000 sometimes. This thing is so good. And in the digital realm, I think I've found the perfect distortion pedal. But yeah, that's it for this video. This has been Jerry Mateo with In the DAW. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked this. Please leave us a like, leave us a comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. I hope you guys have a good new year. I'll see you guys later. Bye.